Hi, this is Shankar, and today's horoscope analysis. I shouldn't say that, but the chapter, the issue which I'll take in the chart analysis is about extramarital relationships, or let us say, I'll also deal with cheating. Now, the whole perspective of extramarital relationships, has changed with time. First the kings used to have a lot of wives, so nothing wrong in it. It was accepted social norm. Even before independence, before the Hindu Marriage Act was not there, people used to have two or three wives, right? And over there also people said the first wife used to agree and go for the second wife. There was nothing wrong in it. So what is karma? It is right or wrong? We really don't know. But the whole perspective changes with time, and we have to see things, as I keep on saying, with effect, with desh kal patra. So this aspect of extramarital affair and cheating, let's understand this. It is basically, when you call, it's a break of trust which is there. A trust is like when you have a kind of a both the partners have a mutual, kind of a bonding which is there, where they say that they will not break each other's trust, and that is anything which goes outside that becomes kind of an extramarital relationship, or you are cheating your partner, or you are not telling your partner, or you are having multiple relationships. So that is what I would say is indicated in charts. Whether it is good, whether it is bad, that is not the issue. The issue is whether your chart has the propensity of getting into multiple relationships. As I've also read, that man is polygamous by nature, so that is the nature of man. Society makes kind of a thing, and so astrology doesn't have anything as marriage, because marriage today, it's a live-in relationships are also there, and so many forms of relationships have also come into play. But here I'm trying to deal is about multiple relationships and how do they happen, and what is it which makes them happen. The major and the most important planet which makes things move and happen, and which is important for the entire events to happen, is Venus. Venus is the planet which governs everything in terms of it being strong or it being not strong, in letting things happen, in letting relationships happen, or going outside relationships, or going into marriage. Even in Kalpurush also, I would give, as Venus rules the second and seventh house, it is also it is also not only the second Rashi and the seventh Rashi, but also the second and seventh house, along with Venus, logically becomes important when we have to see extramarital relationships. And when we get into extramarital relationships, let us also get into various things where today we are having relationships over the phone, we are having relationships on the social media. There are people doing vague activities which is entirely on the phone. So there is an element of illusion which is there, which has come into sex. Even हमारे रिश्तों में ये phone के ऊपर होता है, computers के ऊपर हो रहा है, and people have slowly, people have got addicted to some clone girls. We keep on seeing, so these are all vikrittiyan which has happened, but the major is social media. So let's understand anything which a person does on this, apart from his marital life, which is very clear and straight, and which is related to social media. A very important planet which plays an important role is Rahu. Mercury is also like Rahu. So Rahu and Mercury, when they get connected with second, seventh, 12th, 8th house, then the social media angle comes into combination. If Venus gets combined with let's say Rahu, or Venus gets Venus is afflicted with Rahu, or Venus gets also the association of Rahu and Mercury, and you have a strong Venus, a fairly strong Venus, which does not, I've seen the relationships are more on the media, on the phone, on computers, on media, on talking. Now, when Venus gets afflicted with Mars, then Mars is like a commander-in-chief, it's like an energy. And when Venus is afflicted with Rahu, and it also gets afflicted with Mars, then the person gets into, relationships where he goes in for, it's physical, it's more going out. It's also, and Rahu is also a planet which doesn't understand the society norms. So there is a breaking of norms of society. So whenever Venus, Rahu and Mars get engaged with each other, there is a breaking of norm which happens, and that is where a person would go into relationships which are extramarital, which are not allowed by the society, which I'm not talking about society, that I'll explain you separately, which are not allowed, and which you tend to engage into multiple relationships for the heck of it, because Venus is fueled by Mars and Venus is fueled with Rahu. So when Venus gets fueled with these two planets, it leads to a tendency to relationships. Now, when Mercury comes into play, it leads to multiple relationships. You have one, you're not satisfied with one, you go with second, and you go with third, like that. So Venus, Rahu and Mercury, Mercury is a planet of multiplicity. You go into multiple relationship whenever Venus is with Mars, Rahu and Mercury, or either or and relationship forms between Venus and Rahu and Mars. You have the propensity to do it. You have got the propensity to get into relationships outside. It could be one, but there is a propensity. But once Venus, Rahu, Mars and Mercury also comes into play, then there is a problem of you getting into multiple relationships where you're not satisfied with one person and you get into a lot of other relationships. Now, what happens if Venus, Rahu is there and Mars is also there and Saturn comes into play? When Saturn comes into play, and it is a negative planet, because Saturn, when it is there, it's a planet which moves. It's a planet which is actually which is a midpoint of, which I say is a midpoint of Rahu Ketu. For me, Saturn's agents are Rahu and Ketu. So when Saturn gets influenced with Rahu, and Saturn also gets influenced with Mars, and Venus gets afflicted, then a person will get into relationships which will be, where he would like to enjoy relationships in a different way. His sexuality will be very different. He would like to, enjoy the pleasures in a very in an angle which is very different, in which are not accepted, which we say, let's try everything out. So he would be into that kind of a mode, and he would also be interested in any and every girl, because Saturn is, he could be interested in the lowest form, like it could be a woman of any strata. I'm not talking about what is a profession for lady. That is the difference. It could be from any strata or any profession, any strata to anywhere, because he would need flesh. That Saturn is like, Rahu propels Saturn. Mars says do it, and Venus gets, involved in the whole drama of things. So this is how you have to see how the planets play into getting into multiple relationships. The propensity to relationship, Venus again being central, and I've also explained you how Mercury increases the multiplicity. Now, the third thing, the important thing, and I'm rushing here, is important thing which comes in is cheating. The planet which I feel cheats, is the biggest cheater, is Moon. So whenever Venus comes with Moon, nothing wrong in that, depends on which Rashi it is. Venus with Moon makes you emotional, it makes you sensitive, it makes you a thinker. But when Venus and Moon gets afflicted by Rahu, by Saturn, Mars, Mercury, like that, these planets come into play, then a person cheats. He would be like, telling a lady that he is trustworthy. I mean, he'll swear by him. He will be a smart person who will be telling that I'm yours, everything, etc. But the next moment he would be with other person. The tendency to cheat will give him a thrill, because moon by nature is a planet which is likes to be, I mean, the 27 constellations are, moon moves, and moon had 27 wives, and we know about Rohini, we know the story of Shiva. It's the way to explain that moon is a planet which actually makes you a cheater, which makes you to cheat. So that's what moon does in its own terms, and in its own way. So whenever you have the combination of Venus, Saturn, Mercury, and moon comes in between, you can see the cheating philosophy coming in between. Whenever Rahu is a very important factor. Whenever you have Venus, Mercury, and moon together, then also these kinds of things would come into play. Tendencies of having sexuality which is different. I feel Venus and Mercury itself together in specific houses, in the houses, the third house or sixth house, in the houses play an important role. Now, when we talk about, if you look at the planets, these are the planets. If you look at the houses, and also the planets associated with the houses, these are the same houses. Like Venus is second and seventh. So second and seventh becomes very important when you're analyzing, the relationship of a person. When you look at Mercury, it is Gemini and it is Gemini and Virgo. So here Gemini, I feel, is more important than Virgo. So the house of Gemini becomes very important with because Mercury is always involved. Whenever you see Mars, it is the negative house of Mars, which is the Scorpio, which becomes very important when it comes to relationship and seeing the negative aspect of relationship, while Mars, as in Aries, is the house which shows the positive aspect. When you see Saturn, you have to see the Aquarius, not the Capricorn part of it, the Aquarian energy which is there. Whenever the house of Aquarian is there, which becomes very important. So, and moon, of course, it is like whenever it is in Cancer, whenever Scorpio pieces, whenever it is in watery signs, it becomes more. I generally feel moon cheats all the way, even if it is exalted. I mean, like Venus, moon gets exalted in the house of Venus. So moon, all the time, I feel, is an important planet to see. Now, it is a catalyst. It is a catalyst which makes you to cheat, and in a very big way and in a very smart way. So the lordship of the houses are also very important. Therefore, third house is very important because it is the house of relationship, connections, etc., etc. It is eighth from eighth. Eighth house becomes very important because that is where it gives you the thrill. Sixth house is the house of cheating. 12th house is the house of a pleasure of bed. 11th house is the gain, what you get. You feel satisfied with the whole thing. And so these are the houses which are important, and the planets. Rahu, I feel the Mool Trikon house of Rahu is Cancer. So Cancer is also a very important house when you have to see of issues of relationship, multiple relationships, and cheating. So these are the houses and these are the planets. When you see the combination of these planets, which I have talked about, with Venus, Mercury, and this thing, Venus, Mercury, Mars, Rahu, which form the matrix in making relationships of different ways. Then you have to see these houses also, which houses are there and which are the houses where they fall in, not the houses exactly, houses and the signs where they fall in. So both the things you have to see, which of course can't be told in this video, but one should always take that aspect into consideration. Without that, you will not get anything. Like Mars and Rahu aspected by Shani, Mars and Rahu in second house debilitated, Saturn in eighth house, be sure relationships will happen. So, so these are some thumb thumb rules. Similarly, so you have to see in it, all planets are involved in this. But then what happens is and then I've also told you about the social media part of it, where Mercury plays a very important role. And Mercury is also a planet of multiplicity, which also talks about multiple relationships. Rahu is also very important as far as social media is concerned. Now, what I was going to tell you is what is important when you see the entire gamut of activities is what happens that you are not caught. You don't know. Everybody is cheating everybody, but Jupiter is not a saint. I mean, whatever Jupiter does, whenever Jupiter is there and Jupiter aspects these kinds of combination, you do everything, but you are not caught. I mean, you maintain a facade in front of you. That is what Jupiter does, and that is what Sun does. So these are two planets which are saving, can just create a facade if you have all this there, and Sun also, when it gets afflicted with Venus, it will also, and other things come into combination, it also becomes a friend of Venus, because Sun is a king. Kings also like to enjoy. So, Sun, if it is very strong, unafflicted, it gives you a positioning of, if the other factors are also there, gives you a position, it gives you an outer cover. Similarly, Jupiter somewhere aspect, conjunction, etc., gives you an outer this thing that it does not come out in the front. However, if you have a weak Jupiter, a weak Sun, etc., it comes out. Even a weak Moon, you will be a cheater, but you will get caught in cheating. So you have to see how these planets, when they conjoin, what is the strength and how they get into each other. Like a weak Mars, suppose it is with Venus, and Rahu is also there, and Saturn, but a weak Mars doesn't have the courage to do. So what it does, it makes you to think, but doesn't have the courage to do. But if this weak Mars gets filled by Saturn, you can go to a level which is of a different level. You can go down and do things. You will not take risk, but you will have the same thought process of getting into a relationship, but at a safer, with a safer woman or with a safer lady. This is how you have to see, as we see anything else. So this is the way, and this is the way you do it, and that's critically important. And the way to see is in this, and all planets play an important role, as I explained to you. Ketu, when you look at it, Ketu is the only planet which cuts you, which takes you away. But Ketu plays a very important role when it comes to social media concern. Then you may, when all these planets are there and Ketu is there, then you may not be doing anything externally, but you would be making some graphics and making some men, women, ladies and all, and sexually enjoying the graphics, because Ketu is all about doing that. So we don't consider it to be very bad. You're doing it yourself, and you're not cheating anybody, you're not doing anything. Ketu is a planet, when it comes somewhere in this combination, tries to take you away. So it cuts, it separates. So Ketu, whenever is with Venus, that is a thing where you should hold and see. Even if it is aspected with Rahu, Mars and other planets, Venus with Ketu will make you to cut away from the sexuality which is in which Venus signifies. So this is what is the impact of Venus which is there, and how you have to see with one central planet and making a matrix, a kind of a web with other planets to come to a conclusion for certain thing. So this is how you have to see cheating on partners, extramarital relationships, which you can call them extramarital or multiple relationships in a horoscope. It cannot be explained in 30 minutes or 40 minutes. It needs, I think, volumes, and you need experience. You need to understand the chart, and if you have to go deep into somebody, perhaps you see a lot of things, right from the rishi, from the tithi and the day you're born, the yogi planets, the zero rashis, etc., etc., also have to be seen before you come to a conclusion. So these are pointers which are there. And learn astrology. Astrology will help a person in at least guiding. At least for children, I think it's very important if you can guide your children, and if they have these tendencies, it becomes very important in guiding them. With this, I end my video, and you can go to my website shankarstudy.com or on my WhatsApp 9818733,000. Thanks. Bye for now.